All right. Hi, YouTube. Here with another video, and it's been a while since I've made a video because I've been going through a lot of things over the last few months. I would say I've been going through a lot of things for the last few decades, but the purpose of this video is to hopefully be of some use to anybody out here, probably younger than me, or probably roughly in my age range. Frankly, you could be older than me. You could be in your teenager years, you could be even in middle school, you could be a high schooler, you could be, so we're talking like those early teens when you basically are starting to realize that your parents or whoever you look up to are really not the knights in shining armor that you once thought that they were. And as you started to realize, geez, some things are not making sense in my social circle. Of course, as the years go by, maybe you got bullied in high school, maybe you didn't enjoy your time in the school system, maybe you found yourself pretty much becoming just a drifter in that system. Because I can tell you now, from what I've been able to observe, that seems to be kind of the norm nowadays. Most people seem to kind of be taken into this sort of system of, I don't want to, by the way, be too hard on our government, especially right now, given all the drama that's happening in the world. But I think it's one of those good examples of good intentions, bad outcomes. And unfortunately, most families in America have leaned into the public education system because it was free, essentially free. And you're thinking, man, if it's free, then it must be a good deal. But the truth is, things that are free usually also have a price tag. Even the air we breathe may not even be as free as we once thought, right? If you're one of them climate change activists who are just freaking out about what's happening in, the pile of trash building up in whichever part of the city that you live in. That said, you may be someone who's a little older. You may have actually been the kind of person who finally got through the nightmare that was high school, was able to get to some sort of, let's say, college. And essentially, what was college? College is just high school 2.0. You're still being effectively treated as a child. You have a little bit more independence, but unfortunately, you're kind of still stuck in the system where either you are able to get some sort of scholarship or financial aid from the government, which is great. In a more common case scenario, you've taken on student loans, in which case you're going to have to find a way to pay them back. That's the boat that I've fallen under. And or you may be someone, and this is a hybrid, where you're still financially depending on your parents to get through college. So, in a sense, you're not still truly a financially autonomous adult. Rather, you're someone who is still dependent on others to get through your life. And that tends to be sort of the norm. I'm generalizing here, but hopefully I'm painting a picture. And then guess what? You may have been someone who have dropped out of college. You may have been someone who was able to finish college. Either way, you've eventually found yourself kind of hitting the so-called streets of the world, where now you actually are officially adult in that you're now working every little step of the way. You're making money. You're now in the functioning member of a society. And now you're basically trying to figure out what to do next in your life. And so most people sort of fall under this position. You're basically now caught in the rat race of society, we'll say. And now you're trying to find a way out. Or maybe you've given up on trying to find a way out because for some reason, nothing that you seem to be doing is really calling to you. You've been trying to find different jobs, you've tried different careers, you try different things, and for some reason you're not able to find that inner peace of mind. And chances are there's something deep down within you that is just hasn't been sitting still for a long time, and you're still looking for the answers. And for some reason, you're not able to find the answers in your immediate circle of people. Why is that the case? Chances are because they've kind of fallen under the same boat. Chances are they've kind of been doing the exact same story arc that I've just described that may be happening to you. And this goes on, right? Once you kind of hit those at some point in your 20s where you've now are working on your own and you've been loyal to the system, you've done everything you were supposed to do, and still it hasn't been enough. You may find yourself at a job that, yes, you may be making money, but your soul may be dying inside. There may be a part of you that just doesn't sit right. And now you're at a point in your life where the only way to get through the week or get through the day or get through the month or get through the year is through some sort of product, some sort of dopamine kicking stimulant or something to that degree. So it could be that you love to watch entertainment TV. A lot of people turn to TV. Whatever is on TV, whether it's movies, whether it's shows, whether it's sports, you name it, there's something to watch, something to keep your mind preoccupied while you sit there and essentially keep on drifting. You may be someone who probably needs something a little stronger kick. So what do? You turn to caffeine, right? And you use caffeine just to sort of use brute force just to power through the day. You may be someone who turns to other things. You may start to slip into alcohol. You may be someone who's hooked on Adderall. You may be someone who needs to smoke cannabis just to find a sense of peace in their soul. You may be getting to a point where you're now taking harder and harder substances. And of course, as most of us know, once you start entering other territories of other substances, you may find yourself mentally in a really bad place. And I bet you, as an American, you go to any city in this country and you're going to find the people who I'm talking about. All you have to do is ask them, hey, how did you get here? And they have a story to share. If they're willing and they want to actually have a conversation, because not everybody is able to have those conversations because they're heavy stuff. But the overall message here is whether you're in your teens, early teens, late teens, 20s, you could be in the 30s, you actually may have been able to sustain this into your 40s, you're going to eventually find yourself in the good old Fight Club scenario where you're basically, your subconscious, some part of you is trying to find a way out. It doesn't know how. So what does it do? You turn to either substances or you turn to some sort of media or some sort of fantasy world that you can then escape off into. In my personal case, I got into a lot of war gaming, video games, Call of Duty, that kind of thing. And I was the kind of person who just loved to find games where I could shoot stuff all the time. Why? Because it was a way for me to get my anger out. So here's the catch. Unfortunately, no matter how hard you try to fight, no matter how hard you try to fight that thing, that feeling, and no matter how hard you try to suppress that feeling, chances are it's not working. Right? I don't know if you've noticed, but it may have been several years now, and you've been doing the same habits for quite a while, and you're still not much happier. You're still not much relieved from the situation that you find yourself in. And when you try to talk to, say, your parents, could be siblings, could be relatives, it can be anyone that you have in your inner circle, they don't really seem to get it because they kind of go off and do their own dopamine hits in their own way as well. And so the overall message I have here is for anybody who is simply trying to find a way out of what we'll call simply the matrix. But it's not really a matrix, folks. It's not a simulation. Maybe the whole universe is a simulation for all we know. But in this kind of social dilemma that many of us find ourselves in, it's not really a matrix. It really simply is an internal problem, and it's one that our society hasn't been able to address. And so this is where we are today in 2023, folks. And unfortunately, we're at a point in time in history, it seems like, and could be wrong, of course, but it seems like we're at a point in time where now it's getting so bad, that everybody's so drifting that now the whole society is starting to drift. The whole economy is starting to drift. And you hear about all these things. People are not working anymore or are not working nearly as much. People are not having kids as much. People are not having as many stable families as much, because why on earth would you want to have kids and traumatize your kids the way your parents traumatized you or whoever it was, right? And so this message is just out to the people who are looking for that deeper answer. Maybe you're the kind of person who was saying, why are you so into philosophy? Why do you waste your time on all that crap? Why do you try to get so deep into all this stuff? Why aren't you positive? Why are you always so mad all the time? Why are you so sad all the time? Why don't you just be happy, right? And for some reason, it just doesn't feel authentic. And for some reason, you may be the kind of person who really only finds peace of mind and peace of heart, peace of soul, however way you want to call it, when you're able to actually have a genuine emotional interaction with a person, right? And wasn't full of some sort of strange social dynamic. It wasn't tied to any social media posts or Instagram posts or Facebook posts. It's not part of any social group. It's not part of any group chat. It's not part of anything where basically you find that, there's an elephant in the room that no one's talking about, yet everyone's trying to play it off like everything is fine. And so my answer to you folks is that the advice I have to give right now, if there's any advice I could give to someone who's trying to figure this out, and and I can't sit here, by the way, and I really act like I have all the 100% answers. I can't sit here and act like I'm an expert psychologist or anything like that, but I can speak on someone who's got a little bit of life experience. If you've seen my YouTube channel at all, you've seen that I've basically decided to try to get out of that simulation, if you want to call it, get out of that social bubble is a better way to put it. But if there's any advice I could give right now, is to understand that when you go your own way, you're doing yourself a favor. If you're able to go your own way, you're doing yourself a favor. And really don't think of it as you saying goodbye to everybody you love. Don't think of it as, you never seen them ever again. Don't think of it as that. But understand that what you're doing is you're trusting that inner part of yourself, the most powerful part of yourself, that has the strongest inner voice, and you're listening to that voice, and you're listening to that voice that wants to help you, wants to take care of you, wants to nurture you. And this has probably been, maybe we can call it your gut instinct, maybe you can call it your intuition, but it's that inner part of you that has kind of been guiding you all throughout life. Maybe it hasn't been the brightest part of your life, maybe it hasn't been the strongest inner voice. There's a lot of negativity that we can find ourselves getting caught up in. But I'm here to tell you now that if your gut instinct is telling you something, chances are it's telling you something for a reason. And the question is well, what is that reason? What is it trying to tell me? One thing I can tell you now is that you're not going to know until you're actually able to really confront whatever emotion that you've been suppressing. Okay, that emotion you have deep down within is being suppressed big time. And there's a lot of psychology that's starting to come out, but this sort of concept has been around for a long time. And there's even like ancient ideas that have suggested that this has been around. But essentially, it comes down to two concepts. And you've got essentially your false self and your true self. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's your true self is up here and your false self is down here, right? There's a lot of names that people use when it comes to two entities that usually affect our life. But the one I'm going to simply stick to is the ego and the true self, right? And big shout out to the writer of War of Art. That's a book that I can recommend. I can put an Amazon link there. But the idea is that we have this inner battle, and there's this inner battle that's constantly happening. And essentially it's a battle between these two entities. The ego that you have is designed to keep you alive every day, every week, every hour. The thing is, that ego only sees things in the short term. It only is able to adapt in the short term. It listens to what you hear, smell, see, taste, and touch. It is your body. It is we'll call it the primitive part of yourself. It is the part of yourself that is afraid, that uses fear as a way to guide you through life, and uses fear as a way to avoid things in life. But sometimes our ego doesn't really know as much as it could. And there's another part of ourselves, we'll call it the true selves, that actually has some sort of deeper insight to the world going on. So take, for example, the world today. There are really no more lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, that are going to come and eat you if you decide to step outside and talk to a stranger. And yet you have the same fear that you would when talking to a stranger when there really is nothing to truly worry about, right? So what is the main fear that most people are held back by these days? It's a social fear. It's a made-up fear. It's a fear made up by not just one ego. It's made up by all the egos that you happen to know. And so what's the consequence of that? Well, I would argue the consequence is that you find yourself living a lie, or you find yourself living a life that you never saw yourself really wanting to live. You find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Why am I unhappy? Why am I with such unhappy people? And the short answer is because you've associated with the ego, you've leaned into the ego, you've decided that the ego and that inner voice of fear is gospel, essentially, and that's how you're going to live your life. You're going to play it safe. I'm telling you folks, don't play it safe. If you've got that fear, chances are you're going to learn a lot if you're able to confront that fear. And The War of Art is a beautiful book. It's not the art of war, it's the war of art, and it's talking about this theme of resistance. But there's a particular chapter where he does talk about the ego and the true self, and I think he describes it beautifully. And so my message to anyone out here right now is that if you need space, if you need to sober up, if you need to get away from all this noise and all this nonsense that's happening around you, all this social drama, all this gossip, all this stuff where people are saying, oh my God, this person did wrong, this person did this person did that, chances are that's probably what you need to do. But where are you going to go to find that peace of mind? Where are you going to go? The short answer is that you're going to have to go somewhere where you're going to have to be alone. And I'm going to now be a little bit more frank about the way I like to communicate because I'm working on my YouTube skills. But you need to go a place where you're going to be the fuck alone. You're going to be so fucking alone, okay? You're going to be so alone. Understand that. You're going to be so alone. And what I've learned in my recent travels, one of the reasons why I decided to travel and kind of travel spontaneously, I mean, I ended up living out of my car for 8 months, way longer than I actually expected. But what I found in my travels from moving, whether it was getting out of Baltimore, going out to Tennessee, finding myself out in Utah, all of a sudden being in California, and finally setting up shop out here in Texas, is that no matter where I went to find a place where I wanted peace of mind, I never really found it. I didn't find it in any other community. I didn't find it in any single person. I didn't find relief in any other new social group. No matter which group I turned to, I did not find relief. I just found that they had their own problems, they had their own drama, they have had their own nonsense, and it was really hard for any of us to help each other out if we're all dealing with some sort of trauma. And so I think the short answer is that yes, there is a time and place to be alone, folks. And given the nature of this country, given the nature of freedoms that we have in this country, right? It goes all the way back to that good old Constitution. But this is like the number one place to be alone. If you need space, this country is so massive. The land distance is so far, folks, that you have so much opportunity to be alone. But understand that when you're going to be alone, you're going to be confronting that fear. You're going to be confronting those invisible lions and tigers and bears all of a sudden. You're not part of a tribe anymore. You've decided to leave the clan that you've been part of to go figure out who you really are. And now you're going to have to confront the fears of the ego. And I am here to tell you now that the ego is extremely aggressive when it comes to establishing its own defense, establishing its own ability to survive, and so on. And so it's not easy, folks. This journey is not easy. I wish I could say it was, but I can tell you now that it's been probably the most painful, the most intense, the most sorrowful journey that I think I've ever been through. But I'm here to tell you now that because of the journey that I've been able to get through, because I've been able to create space and find a way to get in tune with the true emotions that I've been suppressing down for so long, because hey, guess what? It's not okay to be angry with other people's egos and their own angers, because it can be dangerous. That's a natural thing. You don't want to be angry and be aggressive with anybody, right? Likewise, you don't want to be sad in the right place, because chances are you're going to get bullied again. So by just figuring out what the true emotions have been, I can tell you, folks, there's relief to be found when you're able to confront the true emotions of whatever it is you're dealing with, whoever it is you're dealing with, whatever, who, where, when, why, whatever circumstance that you're dealing with. Understand that your feelings are true, okay? Understand that whatever your deepest feelings that you're almost afraid to even confront, chances are they're there for a reason. Believe it or not, but I think the deepest emotions actually have a reason for why they're there. And it may go all the way back to your childhood, folks. It may go all the way back to that one day at the park in which you were really happy, and then all of a sudden you forgot how happy you were ever since, right? So we're going to have to go real deep, folks. And the only way to do that, or rather, the only thing you really have to do in order to get deep, is to let go of the wheel. I know it sounds crazy. We're talking about driving this car. We're talking about being in control of our life. Gotta get the job. I gotta be productive. I gotta make people so-and-so happy so that they cannot be happy or be mad or something like that. That didn't make sense. But hopefully you're kind of getting where I'm coming from right now. But it's just this long laundry list of to-dos that you have to do in order to get some sort of peace of mind. Okay, I gotta work out today. Oh, I gotta be successful. I gotta do this. I gotta make a fuck ton of money, whatever. Okay, if you're a man, especially, right? I gotta get the bitches, right? You gotta do all these things, so you're constantly just constantly doing stuff, right? Because you're too afraid to confront what's really deep down within. And so I'm here to say that this is the one time where you're able and you're allowed to let go, okay? And the so-called I that you and I are, the so-called I that made the video, and the so-called you or your I that is there listening, guess what? These are just two egos talking to one another. Just two egos talking to one another, acting like we're in control, acting like this is how life is. We've created all of society and all this good stuff. But I'm here to tell you, I have very good reason to believe that our true selves, right? Once you get past all that ego, once you get past the surface, our true selves is the ones that are really calling the shots. But here's the thing about our true selves. Our true selves don't play around. And if it's got something to feel and something to say, that true self is going to say it. And if you don't want to hear it, guess what? It's going to torture you for the rest of your life. You're going to find yourself constantly stressed. You can't even sit still because the emotions are just that powerful. So hopefully this is making sense. We're definitely getting a little deep down the rabbit hole at this point. It's already a 20-minute long video. But my message to anyone out there who's just simply trying to figure out who they are, which is a worthy goal according to Greek mythology or Greek philosophy. One of them Greek dudes, or it could have been just some homeless dude. Either way, I mean, they both had the cool looking beard. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you want to find who you really are, you're gonna have there's reason. I don't want to tell you what to do, but there's reason to give yourself some space. Get yourself someplace out in nature, somewhere beautiful. Preferably, don't find yourself in a negative place, because that negative environment is going to weigh you down. Find yourself a beautiful part of nature, a beautiful place if you can. If you live in a city, it's going to be that much harder given how trashed so many places are. But if you can find just a beautiful part of the natural world, my advice is try to embrace it. Try to explore. And day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, I think you are going to be able to have some sense of clarity. And maybe this is what the whole meditation thing is all about, right? So with that said, I will put a resource on The Art of War, great book, take a look. And another resource, this one is free, right? Check out Jesse Lee Peterson's church, right? He seems to be, so far, out of every mentor that I've been able to find, I've read different books, and I've read different things here and there, but of everyone so far, they seem to resonate best with me. Maybe I can put one more resource of some kind of therapist. He talks about the same thing. But the idea is, what we want to do right now, folks, is stop getting caught up in all this hypnotic nonsense that's happening in society, because even the people at the top, even the wealthiest people in our country, if they're not loving themselves, if they're not in tune with themselves, if they don't even know who they are just by working their asses off, guess what, folks? They're going to be stressed. They're going to be anxious. They're going to be struggling in some way, and they may not have all the answers. So simply know that society is a little woo-woo right now, and it's okay that it's going through a phase. What's not okay is to see that as the fundamental reality. It's not, folks. There's something way deeper going on. But it's going to require us to not even focus, but just learn how to get our hands off the steering wheel. Learn how to do less, not more. And so with that, hopefully you have a nice day. Hopefully this resonated with anybody out there. But, if you need space from even the closest people that you know, I don't care what the label is. They can be, I don't care what the label is. We'll say, it can even be family. It can be your best friend. It can be a partner. It can be whomever. Just understand that if it's an ego that you're dealing with, and you've got ego too, you're going to find yourself in a storm of self-imposed torture. And so my advice simply is learn how to give yourself space, right? So of course, this is not professional advice. This is just some dude who's driven around the country who had to get the F out of Baltimore and basically find some peace of mind. And so we're on our way, folks. And so hopefully that's of value to anybody out there. Know that you're not the problem. Okay? It's easier for you to blame yourself than to realize that you were simply born in a shitty situation. So you're not the problem, folks. For any of the more Christian folks out there, I'm talking about original sin. Okay? It ain't your fault, folks. But you got to learn how to forgive yourself and learn how to give yourself some space to get some healing up in there. Because if you're going to continue using brute force to heal, you're just going to find yourself in a deeper hole, speaking from experience. So with that, peace out, and have a nice day.